Hey, welcome to the Tim and Gugabe podcast. This is your host, Tim. Gugabe, we've had a couple of weeks off. I had some scheduling issues, so we didn't get to do a podcast. We did for 300. 300 happened, and we haven't even talked about that. Nicolau Perez, we didn't do, and then 301 Pantoja Usyk, we didn't do. My fault fully, but we got UFC St. Louis this weekend. I'm actually going to my hometown, and I have a suite for it. I got the company box for it, so I'll tweet out some pics and everything when I'm there. So I'm excited for that. But how have you been?
Yeah, pretty good. Good to hear that you get to go to Michael Johnson Stadium this weekend. It'll be an honour to officiate. So, for St. Louis, for context, Michael Johnson is like the equivalent of Rocky. There's like a statue in France of Michael Johnson being submitted by Darren Elkins, and yeah, people just it's a real movement. It's yeah. He is Michael. He is St. Louis's favorite son. It's amazing, but yeah, I'm doing pretty well.
Awesome. All right. Well, let's. I mean, there's been a few cards, so we can't recap them all. But I want to quickly talk about 300, but not like long or anything. But like Pereira knocked out Hill, not much to say there. Zhang out grappled Yan, not much to say there. Holloway was an awesome. That was such a good line. We were both kind of all over that one, and I was like split between the money line and the doesn't go the distance, or I was split between the money line, not Gaethje inside the distance, and then I also was Holloway no scorecards, and they all hit, which was awesome. You probably make some money on Holloway there too, right?
Yeah, that was a good spot. Like, yeah, I think it was honestly more dominant than I thought. Like, I think Gaethje kind of used this dumb game plan. Like, he just didn't give it. Like, when he just started biting the mouthpiece later in the fight, he gave himself a lot more chance to win. It felt like for the first like 3 rounds, he was trying to be too technical for his own good. Like,
yeah.
Like, I'm not saying he wins. I'm not saying if he just bites the mouthpiece, he wins. But I just felt like, yeah, at a certain point, you just got to go, all right, fuck it, this is my path to victory. Yeah, he had more chance of making something happen.
I historically thought Holloway is just a better fighter than Gaethje. Like, if you just look at like career, Holloway has done more. He's better, and skill wise, he's like better. So I just was like, we have like a better fighter, and I didn't think size would really matter, which I don't think it did, because Holloway's big, like he's just like he's a skinny guy at 45, and at 55 he's filled out. And the way I saw it was like I've never been high on Gaethje. Like, I don't think he should be minus 190 versus like many good fighters, and Holloway's a good fighter, So it's kind of that, and like I thought Holloway cleaning him out was totally possible, and I didn't think Gaethje cleaning him out was totally possible. Like I was like all that possible. I thought it would just be like Holloway would have to been really done, and I just don't think he is yet,
I mean,
Holloway has he's so tough. Like, his durability is insane, and like I think we both said Holloway no scorecards. Holloway was plus 240, which is retarded. It's like Holloway is maybe the most durable guy in the history of the UFC, and Gaethje's not durable. Like he's not like he doesn't have awful durability, but it's not like a strength. You know what I mean?
Yeah. My view of that was just like, for Gaethje to be minus 200, the pricing made sense. Like, assuming this is a universe where Gaethje was minus 200, since obviously it didn't end up being the case at the odds. Yeah, because like Gaethje, if Gaethje was minus 200, Gaethje KO had to be like plus 100. It was like there's no way you can come to Gaethje minus 200 without projecting Gaethje KO plus 100. Like, yeah, Gaethje KO plus 100 turned out to be dumb, but I know it's one of those things. It's like, yeah, he said he played not Gaethje inside the distance, which my opinion is just like, you're taking the full exposure to the face in exchange for less price. So it's like, if not Gaethje IGD is a good bet. It's like Gaethje decision is such a marginal outcome. So you just might just take Holloway.
The thing is, though, with that, like, I see what you're saying, but I almost took the reverse approach where, like, I wasn't that worried about Holloway getting knocked out. I was more so worried about it just being a close fight and Holloway being there and just getting, like, hit hard, and, like, where Gaethje would swing rounds. I was more worried about it just being a competitive fight where, like, maybe Gaethje landed a few harder shots. Like, I wasn't really worried about just Holloway getting deaded. And I know, because people said the same thing that you did, but, like, it ended up just being everything was off, you know, and like every bet.
Yeah.
It turned out to be like every bet on Holloway was good, but I was more protecting myself because I thought like if it went to the cards, it could have been a competitive fight, and I was quite confident Holloway wouldn't get finished. I was more worried about like Holloway's like athletic gear not being there as much to where like it would just be a close fight and a decision for Gaethje was possible. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of what I was more leaning towards, and like it ended up just being everything. Like I mean, Holloway no scorecards was a great bet. Holloway KO was a good bet because even though like hit in the last second, he was hurting Gaethje like multiple times.
Yeah,
and it was like
5 times.
Yeah. Like it just turned out everything was like a great bet. You know what I mean? I got like and the plus 240 kind of evened out the minus 140 not ITD for Gaethje, you know? So it was like whatever. Like maybe you should have just played the money line, but I was just kind of protecting myself in case it was like a close decision. You know what I mean? Because like we have seen Gaethje win decisions like versus Fiziev and whatnot off like stuff, but I know what you mean. Sarukian out-wrestled Oliveira. I don't have much to say there. Nickel out-wrestled Brundage. Fine. Yuri just got beat up for a while, and then like the pace just kind of got to Rakic.
I don't think it did. I mean, Yuri switched on and won the sort of bonk fest, but it wasn't like Rakic gassed per se. He just lost Yuri bit the mouthpiece and won that bite in the mouthpiece. Like, I don't know. I think some of the takes in that are kind of stupid. Like people act like, oh, Yuri was going to just, was just going to be able to ratchet up the thing and win automatically. It's like, they were both landing big nukes. Like, Rakic just KOs him and looks minus 5 billion in like a decent chunk of those fights. Like, unless you think Yuri just cannot be knocked out, which is stupid.
Yeah. I was on Sterling over Cater. Like I was just kind of like, Cater wasn't out wrestled by a bunch of non-wrestlers. Like Aljo is so good. Like as a grappler, I think people forget, you know, and I kind of expected that to happen. And also I kind of also thought like just neutralizing Sterling's like maybe better on the feet than Cater. And I think that kind of played out where like, it's like the takedown threat and his neutralization just totally shut Cater down. So I was on Sterling there. Harrison, good performance against Holmes. Holmes just not very good on the mat. Lopez, I still don't trust him like at all, but fair play. But yeah, I was on Aljo. I was on Rakic and missed. I was on Holloway. I was on Moicano over Turner. You know, he almost got knocked out, but there was just such a big disparity. Like it's like I know Turner is just is more dangerous on the feet than Moicano, but the grappling disparity was enormous. And it's like, why is this plus 190, you know, or plus 200 or whatever it was? That's kind of what I was at. Andrade Rodriguez was pretty competitive. I was on Green over Miller. Green kind of just beat him up, and then Figueiredo sub Garbrandt. I don't have that much to say overall. And then I don't know the other card. What was it? Nicolau and Perez. We won't go through that one. But did you have anything like?
No, I was quite big on Perez. I just saw it as being 50-50 worst case scenario. Nicolau's a fun fighter, but he just kind of doesn't give himself any margin against anybody ever.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I did really well in 300, and then I think I lost like 0.3 units on this card. What did I have? I was on the under for Medic means just because I just kind of expected it to be like Medic's fights. I just generally want to be on the unders, you know.
I mean, I thought Means had like a reasonable approach. Like the whole clinch fight, he got buzzed, but like, it wasn't like Means it wasn't like Medic was absolutely smacking him around the cage. He just died. Well, he just died in exchange. It wasn't like, I honestly didn't mind Means' approach. Though. I didn't have any like significant exposure to the fight, but like, if Means was going to fight, I think he was doing the right things.
Yeah. I had really good picks on this card, though. Like, I think I picked Guskov or whatever. I did pick Lipsky against Silva. I didn't watch that fight, but Silva looks like she got, like, a decision. I picked Onama to beat Pierce. I didn't play it, but because I didn't know for sure, but I just had a hunch, like, everyone was, like, talking about Onama's takedown defense at 48%, but he's really good at reversing, and, like, people I saw
I
some.
think Price was accurate, honestly.
I
I think
disagree.
PS probably wins that. Well, it's like an armor got his 8 get ups here the R, and then and I think the striking volume was equal. Like Pierce was not getting absolutely shut out in the striking, so it's like, and it's just like if Pierce ever gets like consolidates a half guard or gets like he comes like if Onama was just absolutely thrashing him every time he got like stand up, I would agree. But it's like the striking wasn't actually competitive, and like Pierce, even while being an idiot, still had the upside to just Onama's not going to get out of the back take every single time. It's just like round 2 it did happen. Like Onama fucks it up one time, he's stuck. Like I think
I would
minus 150 is fine.
Even like I wouldn't put Pierce at like minus 160 or 150 or whatever it was. I would cap it more even. Like I agree, it was still very competitive, but I just think those are going to be very close rounds in general. Like it's just Onama's really. Because everyone's just like, oh, he just relies on athleticism with grappling. It's like, yes, that helps, but knowing when to explode is skill. Like he knows when to explode, all the right moments. And I was watching it on tape, like the way he just kind of, and even when he gets his back taken, the way he like sinks his hips in and gets like near his shoulders and just turns into like guard. He knows when to explode, and that takes skill. So it's not just athleticism; it's knowing how to use that athleticism. So I think like. Some of the takes but like being an athletic freak, it's like, yeah, it helps him, but he's also like got some good grappling instincts, in my opinion.
Yeah, but my thing is like, I just think of the grappling dynamic. It's just like, end of the day, Pierce. Yeah, I agree. Like, Onama did well at getting out, but I just feel like, round 2 did happen. Like, Pierce not fucking out the grappling or getting slightly more, like a slightly less greedy is enough to make him like, I don't think in the context of MMA, grappling is OP. So even if Onama is escaping kind of a thing, I still think you have to shade it towards Pierce just because, like, there are universes where Pierce discovers half guard and just sits there.
Yeah. No, I hear you. Give me 1 second. And then, okay, let's go to UFC St. Louis. So I will say I haven't researched I'm still researching this card. I mean, I know, like, generally my takes on these surface level fights, but we'll talk main card and you can kind of talk about what you want, Gugabe, but Luis Nascimento, do you agree with Luis being minus 161? Gugabe, you there? Can you guys hear me? Let me know. I don't know if I lost connection or if that was just Gugabe. Let me know in the comments if you guys can hear me right now. Okay. Cool. Thanks, guys. He'll be back in a second. He just had like a power outage or something. Yeah. I'll wait for Gugabe to talk about Luis Nascimento. One fight that I will talk about, just since to kill time a little bit, is Hardy Aldrich, because I just talked about it. Like originally, I kind of thought I would be leaning Aldrich in that fight, but the more I watch, Hardy kind of does a good job of like controlling distance and springing in and out, and I kind of like her defense a little better. Like Hardy used to be I used to be pretty low on her overall as a fighter, but she took like 3 years off, and I think in her last 2 matchups. And she surprised some people. God, I'm talking about Hardy Aldrich real quick, but Hardy surprised some people by like winning those fights, and I thought she did a good job of like springing in and out. And I feel like they're both southpaw here, and I think it's just going to be a low volume, like 40 to 60 strikes each on the feet, because I don't think either will dominate with grappling. And I think Hardy's speed, and I think she hits a little harder than Aldrich, so I agree with her being a slight favorite, but I do think it will be a really tight fight overall. But that looked like it looks competitive on paper, but ultimately, like I liked Aldrich pre-tape, and then once I taped, I actually did pick Hardy to win. Do you have any opinions on Hardy Aldrich? I just taped it, Gugabe, so that's why I was doing it, like talking about it all the time.
Gut feel. Originally, I was like, "Oh, Aldrich should be the side just because she's more coherent." Then, like, I honestly pretty much did tape and came to more or less the same conclusion as you.
Yeah.
I think Aldrich. The issue of Aldrich is like women's boxing as a base without having like power is just the worst because like Aldrich never like separates. Like where is the Aldrich is the big favorite upside here kind of a thing? Like unless Aldrich, yeah, probably Aldrich does occasionally control grapple, which could hypothetically come out, but like Aldrich, when she's comfortably fighting a normal fight, she just kind of doesn't do much on the outside and just, yeah, she outworks people. I mean, she just doesn't really outwork people and it's just like, all right, so Aldrich gets a perfect fight here. She's probably like minus 150. And like Hardy just seems more explosive and
a little more explosive. That's what I kept. Her speed, like in and out, I kept noticing on tape. But it's still going to be like a 40 to 60 fight, like 40 to 60 significant strikes each type of fight, you know? So like one caught kick for either girl could swing an entire round. You know what I mean? I do think Aldrich is more likely to consolidate top position than Hardy because we've seen Hardy stuck on the bottom more than Aldrich. Like Aldrich has shut down good grapplers before, but I still kind of just like don't think Aldrich's offensive wrestling is good enough to take advantage of that. Like I think they'll probably just strike, but I do think Aldrich is a little more likely to get top position, which could be huge here. But I think it's generally going to be like 10 to 12 minutes on the feet here. And so the winner of the striking exchanges will probably win the fight. And I was slightly leaning Hardy, but the line's probably about right. Like minus, like, 50, what is it? Like 56% Hardy. I think that's reasonable. She really improved. Like she's still not very good, but she's like game planning now, like she used to be just a spaz. Remember that? She'd be like a Taekwondo girl who would like try to grapple sometimes. And now she's actually using like speed and distance control,
Yeah, like gun to my head, I'd probably go Aldrich just because I feel like she's a little more coherent. But yeah, it's not enough of a lane for me to bet, to be honest. Like, I don't mind 50-50 here, but like I've just got this gut feeling like you said, Hardy will just skirt around the outside, make a close fight and lands, and then just win on athleticism or just. Yeah, I think Aldrich Live might even be a better entry just because I feel like her style might just be more coherent down the stretch kind of a thing, while Hardy might slow down.
I can agree with that. Yeah, Hardy's more explosive early too. Nascimento and Lewis. Let's like talk about the main card now that you're back. Do you agree with Lewis being minus 161?
It seems insane unless you just assume Lewis is just going to knock him out in size 3 exchanges at like 50% clip. It's just like. This is 2024 Derek Lewis. This man is 39 years old. He hasn't looked good in half. Yeah, he's had one good performance in the last couple of years against Alcas, and that's been like 3 or 4 years now.
My favorite line on this fight, like I don't really care who wins, My favorite line on this fight is Nascimento KO plus 400. That seems insane, like absolutely crazy. Because one of the main problems that like Lewis has generally had is like people who like strike him from a distance and just like look at the pressure Nascimento put on like Mays on the feet, and Mays like toughed it out. If Nascimento's like landing those pressure shots to Lewis, I think Lewis is just going to quit. And Lewis is kind of sneakily hard to grapple at times and like submit, like he can just explode. And I think people are like, I think like Nascimento winning by submission, like plus being like a bigger favorite than his TKO is a little bit wrong. Like I just, it's a Derek Lewis fight and he quits. Like he's not durable. He can just get hurt, and Nascimento like can just put on volume. And I think all you need to do is like consistently land on Lewis to result in a KO, and so like, I don't really care who wins. I honestly like might pick Nascimento. I don't care though, but I really like that KO line at plus 400. Do you agree?
Yeah, I agree. I took a bit. I just think Nascimento himself is just value because it's just like 2024 Derek Lewis. Like Nascimento is the kind of guy Derek Lewis historically overperforms against a little bit. Like I do agree with that, but like, is he really minus 160? Like the floor, like the worst case scenario on Derek Lewis in this fight is so fucking bad. Like Derek Lewis could just have to work for like 40 seconds and just be done. Like. I just can't see how you can be confident Derek Lewis like favorite unless you think Derek Lewis is winning within like 2 minutes. Like Derek Lewis is 39 years old. It's been 4 to 5 years since all those horrible fights against Ivanov and Latifi where he robbed them both and that kind of stuff. Like dude is not good. Like the Spivak fight. Like Lewis has like one legitimate win in years against Alcas. Like Lewis got absolutely fucked from the outside by blades, and Nascimento, like, he is hittable, but he's like he's a reasonable fighter. He's got like body. He goes body, he goes legs, he goes head.
Yeah, and that's like
he has like game plans historically.
He works all three levels, and Lewis doesn't take a strike to any level well. Like that's the way I see it. And I honestly thought Nascimento looked pretty good against Mays.
Yeah, honestly, I'm reasonably high on Nascimento as a fight. Again, like the lack of top line athleticism and and his defensive issues are an issue, but like I think he's fine as like a Tiberiu equivalent or something. And like people forget how long it's been since Lewis has been pulling these fights from out of his ass against these like pace heavyweights. Like, it's been like 6-7 years since these fights. Like, Derek Lewis used to be able to do that. But how likely were they when it even happened? And like it's been like he's old now. He's really fucking old.
What Nascimento put Mays through in that fight, I don't think Lewis would have survived against. Like maybe Lewis puts him out in that time, which he might. But yeah, like I kind of think it's dog or pass. I don't have like a huge take on who wins, but I just like that plus 400 KO line. Buckley and Rizabov, who do you got here?
Buckley. You could always get clips, but I think Rizabov's UFC run so far has been absolute stupidity. Like he winged Ferreira, and the Dumas fight was a very clear no. It was a very clear no contest. Like that being officiated was just like Pereira last week and Rizabov. Like that was just bad judge. That was just bad refing. Like, what's the point of having rules if you're not going to enforce clear fouls? Yeah, and also Rizabov is 6'5" and going to welterweight in 2 weeks' notice, so that makes it even harder against like a guy who does put up decent pace. Like, yeah, Buckley can be hit by straight hitters and is kind of fragile, but like, I don't know. I just feel like Buckley has a massive minute winning edge, and yeah, like Rizabov's not very good. Like, there was plenty of regional tape of him kind of sucking.
Yeah, I want to watch a little more Rizabov. Like, I generally like. He kind of strikes me as like an early finisher type. Like Buckley's a pretty good fighter, but he has been cracked a lot, like him just is fully on the table. Like I don't consider his chin great, but he's looked like I like him a lot more at welterweight, don't you?
Yeah, I mean Buckley could get winged here, but I don't see Rizabov subbing him because most Rizabov subs are like I don't think his grappling is very functional. Like he's got all these like ridiculous spam weird subs, but like Buckley's actually hard to grapple, and yeah, maybe Rizabov just lands a big nuke kind of thing, but like it wasn't that. Yeah, unless Rizabov has just become an elite KO guy since he came to the UFC. There's lots of regional tape suggesting that his recent run is just stupid.
Yeah, fair enough. Menafield and Olberg, I don't think you should play anyone at minus 270 versus Menafield. He might not win this fight, but like Menafield's very, very dangerous. And like Olberg has been knocked out before, and he kind of has cardio issues down the stretch. Menafield doesn't really push a pace, so maybe that plays right into Olberg's game, and it makes it more like the technical fighter is going to be winning because they'll both be fresh. And I do think Olberg's a better overall like technical striker than Menafield, but Menafield's too dangerous, man. Like, and Olberg, like, for whatever reason, I don't know the pace of the fight's going to be. It'll probably be low, so maybe Olberg doesn't gas. But if there's enough chaos that occurs, Olberg could still like wilt down the stretch. Like, there's too many ways for Menafield to win this fight. And if Menafield just happened to get on top of him for whatever reason, like Menafield can grapple a little bit too, and he's just a freak athlete. Picking the fight, I think favoring Olberg is fine, but like minus 270, it just seems a little too wide here, don't you think?
Yeah, I agree. I saw Menafield went into plus 170, and I was like, that was fine. I think plus 200 is Menafield. Like Menafield just has a bunch of like I win buttons. Like he hits very hard. He bombs leg kicks. He has a pretty good top game, and like Olberg's grappling seems pretty bad, and I don't see Menafield coherently taking him down, but I just feel like there's a possibility. Yeah, I think the price is about right. Like, yeah, if I had to bet, Menifeld would be the side. Yeah.
Yeah, I think this card in general is like a lot of dogs are gonna bark. Another good fight, CDF and Rebecca. I also think this line's too wide. Like Rebecca's looked very, very good, but CDF has fought like his losses are Dariush, Gillespie, and Gamrot, and like he had a lot of success in all those fights, you know. And he's had some brilliant performances. And I know like he's got to be up there in age a little bit. Yeah, I mean, yeah, he's 39. So like maybe the age just results in him getting dominated here. But like skill wise, he's still very good, has a ton of volume striking, and is like a really dangerous submission grappler. And even like Rebecca had some issues at times with that Nick Fior guy who isn't very good. And like him just kind of steamrolling Loic Radzhabov and Roberts doesn't make me think he should be minus 400 here. Maybe the age just like justifies this line, but it's another one where I would just be careful, you know? What do you think here?
Yeah, I agree. Michael Johnson fight for CDF was such like a poor look. It's just hard to. He didn't even look like CDF. He just looked bad. Like, yeah, he pulled the KO2 out of his ass, but
he did.
He wasn't really trying that hard. Like,
CDF is like a motherfucker with his speed early, you know.
And also, it's like UFC is clearly bringing the person who KO'd Michael Johnson to St. Louis to have him killed by Rebecca. So it's just like, yeah, this is the only way they could keep the St. Louis faithful happy. Like, yeah, this man has transcended against St. Louis God.
I will note, the St. Louis fighters on this card, though, Buckley is one. I think Charles Johnson is as well. And I think Sean Woodson is as well. So keep that all in mind because, like, that crowd, trust me, I'm from here. Like, it may not matter because, like, if, you know, they just get dominated or something. But keep that in mind, like, when you're capping, like, just like a Brazilian in Brazil, like, St. Louis fans, like, love St. Louis. Like, I'm just telling you. So they will be going crazy for Buckley, Woodson, and Charles Johnson, just so you all know.
Yeah. I don't know. I agree. Like, CDF's probably wide. Like, yeah, if CDF rocks up and is doing CDF stuff, he's definitely wide. I think there's a concern where just the age is too much. I think live bet might be better just to get you, a couple minutes to see a CDF even functionally being CDF, not because he's such a pace guy.
Yeah.
Rebecca seems good. I agree. His strength schedule so far has been a little bit light. How hype he seems to be.
Yeah.
But, yeah, CDF will pass. Really, I'm happy to pass her.
Caceres and Woodson. What do you think here?
I mean, I think Woodson should just outwork him, but I feel like Woodson in the last like couple fights has looked a little bit less ridiculous than he did like early on in his UFC run. Like,
yeah,
him against Jordan just didn't give himself much. Like, I had him fairly big against Jordan because I think Jordan sucks, but Jordan just looked like he didn't really give himself much of a chance to win that fight. And Caceres is just like, why does he get Caceres winning the decision? Because Caceres doesn't do that much, and like he's kind of an idiot. But also, Caceres just kind of creates big moments sometimes, and Woodson can be big moments with it. So, price is probably fine. Like, Woodson should be bigger.
It's probably fine.
Under might be a little bit interesting, just off pace. Like, I'm pretty sure like Woodson pushes a hard pace. Caceres can kind of big moment things. Caceres doesn't like being like pressured. Like Jason Knight and all that. Like, essentially KO. It was a sub, but like it was just making Caceres work historically has been a good way to beat him.
Yeah. I still have a lot of tape to do. One fight I just taped though, McKinney and Ribovics. I've played quite a few people against McKinney. I played Sadikov and Bonfim, so I've had some success fading this guy. But Ribovics should win if he extends a fight, and he seems like a tough kid, but like he's gonna get out grappled early in this fight, and I'm just like it's a clear live betting spot for Ribovics. Like, I do not think playing his pre-fight line smart because he was getting taken down and mounted like on the regionals even, and even in his last couple fights in the UFC, the same thing was happening. And McKinney's like by far a better like grappler early than all these other guys he's facing. You know what I mean? I just feel like McKinney is going to put him in really bad spots early. It needs to result in the finish because if it doesn't, McKinney will probably get finished himself. But like, I'm quite confident McKinney's going to have some early success in this fight. If McKinney's dumb and decides to strike or something, he'll probably get beat up. But the grappling path there is there for McKinney, but I think it's a live bet on Esteban or pass.
McKinney decision's finally going to hit. It's going to be very funny.
And he could wrestle.
Honestly, I think like if I get like a gigantic plus on that, I think it's worth it. I feel like McKinney could just get like 2 backpacks here or something. Like Ribovic's is like a throwback level in terms of takedown defense. Like Kamuela Kirk kind of fucked it up. Even tired Kirk was getting takedowns and getting grappling going.
Yeah.
Should be a funny fight.
We talked about Hardy and all that. Is there any other fight you want to talk about real quick? I only have about one I can talk about. I have to go in like a few minutes. I have to go at 7.
Acosta versus Spain's gonna be funny. Like how the fuck is Acosta plus 200?
Is there any like real tape on Despania or whatever the fuck his name is?
I mean, there's a multiple year Taekwondo career he wasn't that good at.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, Despania swings, but like by all accounts, he's 35 years old. He's only been training MMA for like a year or two. Like, unless you think he's literally in Nagano, it's like, come on, like minus 200. Who is betting this number on Despania? Like, unless you just think for his entire UFC career, he's going to knock everybody out, like, which is possible. It does happen. But, like, the cost is not bad.
I will also say, Waldo Cortez Acosta has incredible head strike metrics, which really matter. Like, if you look, he outlands everybody to the head, like, big time.
Yeah.
Like, he, like, triples everybody up to the head. And he seems pretty durable, too, don't you think? Like, he seems like a very, like, composed boxer in there, you know, like, so
he has some defense issues. I think he is hittable, particularly if like he's against guys got size parity. But like, even if he is hittable, it's like I just unless you think this fan is like literally in the garden, like come on.
I mean, so his head strike metrics against Vandera, he's outlanded everybody 41-12. Sherman, he outlanded 124-25. DeLima, he outlanded 54-20. Brzezinski, he outlanded 9-1. I played him there because of his head strike metrics. And Arlovsky, he outlanded 24-13. Like, there has to be value on that. You know, like that gives you such a high floor if you're not getting hit much in the head and you're landing the head strikes. You know, like 72% of the time, I think, or 78% of the time, if it goes to a decision, that the guy who lands more head strikes wins the fight. You know,
like. Acosta was just minus 400 against Arlovsky. Is Despania minus 1200 against Arlovsky? Like this is just shiny new toy. Like what the like Despania could be very, 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 very bad.
Yeah, and Acosta's pretty good. Like in like a pure striking fight. Like I mean, every single fight he's had, he's been the better striker. Like even against DeLima, that's the only fight he lost. He beat everyone else. The only fight he lost was DeLima. He was a better striker. You know, he just got taken down a few times.
Oh yeah, but like the Costa does have a leg kick issue, but like I don't think Despania's gonna be bombing leg kicks. Like that's not a thing he does. And I would say DeLima plus 200 in a pure striking match against most of the sort of top 15 heavyweights. Like to be honest, like it's heavyweight.
Yeah. I want to look a little more into Despania, but like that head strike metrics, like on Acosta, is something I've always noticed, and like I think he's got to be value here as well. I mean, I'll tape and find out, but I really like when somebody just dominates head strike numbers because nobody ever talks about it, and it's like one of the most important things in the sport. But all right, I will. That's all I got. Thanks for joining, and we will start getting on a routine again. Sorry for missing the last couple of weeks, boys, but Gugabe, thanks for doing this, and I hope the baby girl is doing well also.
Yeah, she's good. Yeah, cool. Catch it. Have a good one.
See you, buddy.